This video tutorial is brought to you by tipsquirrel.com. For all the best Photoshop and Lightroom tips, follow @tipsquirrel on Twitter or go to facebook.com/tipsquirrel. Hi everybody, Mike Hoffman here, and today I've got a quick technique for creating an abstract image in Photoshop. And this is a very easy technique and it's very versatile. You can create a lot of interesting effects with it. The key for this technique is to start with an image that has a lot of interesting color and texture to it. And the great part about this is that it doesn't really have to be a fantastic image. It could be something you took with your phone. Anytime that you see an interesting shot with a lot of vibrant color, grab the shot and you can use it in this technique. What I'm going to do is begin by duplicating the background layer with Control or Command J. And then I'm going to immediately run a Gaussian blur filter by choosing Filter, Blur, and then Gaussian blur. I'm going to blur this quite a bit, about 75 pixels in this case, just enough to keep all the patches of color intact, but to blur it so that it doesn't really reveal what this is a photo of. I'll click on OK, and then I'm going to duplicate this blurred layer one more time with Control or Command J. And I'm going to turn that top layer off. I'll go back to my original blurred layer, and this is the layer we'll start working on. What we'll do is we'll simply begin to manipulate this layer by choosing Free Transform, and we can get to that by the Edit menu and then choosing Free Transform, or as you can see, the keyboard shortcut Control-T or Command-T. Now once we're in Free Transform, we want to select this icon here at the top, which enables the warp mode of Free Transform. When we click this, we have a grid and we have handles, and we can drag these handles around to manipulate the image. What I want to do in this case is I'm going to start by just pushing the center of this image around and distorting it a little bit, almost in a liquefy fashion. I want to make sure when I'm done that I do have the entire canvas covered up, but that I've stretched and distorted to create some interesting abstract looks here. I think that's good, and I'm going to click on the check mark to commit this transform. Now that we have that complete, I'm going to enable the top layer that I hid a moment ago. And once again, you see we have the original blurred layer here. What I'm going to do is once again with Control-T or Command-T, I'm going to enable Free Transform and choose the warp mode. Now I'm going to drag this one around a little bit and create some additional interesting effects. Perhaps going in the other direction, just mixing it up a little bit. And I'll go ahead and commit that by clicking the check mark here. Now we've got the two layers with distinctly different patterns. We can start mixing them together. And to do that, we'll choose the layer blending modes from here in the Layers panel. There are many and you can try them all, but some of the more interesting ones are Overlay and Soft Light. It's fun to cycle through these different modes to see how they look. Let's try another technique. I'll make another copy of the background layer and move that to the top. And then we'll go ahead and blur this one the same way. Now we'll enter Free Transform and once again choose the warp mode. But this time we'll warp a little bit differently. I'm going to take the corner and bend it inward and stretch it out of shape. I'll take the other corner and bend it over as well. And in doing so, we can create some unusual and once again abstract shapes, and we can let this go wherever our imagination leads us. We can commit this transform, and once again we can choose a blending mode, and in this case we'll choose Soft Light. We can move this around, we can distort it further, and we can do pretty much whatever we like with it. The great thing about working with the layers here is that we can go back, and if we don't like what we're doing, we can simply replace one layer with a new one. So here we'll go back into Free Transform and try something maybe just a little bit different. Once again, the sky's the limit here. You have all these handles, all these controls, and you can create virtually any kind of shape imaginable. I'll just drag these around like so. and we'll commit that and see how it looks. Let's go ahead and try some different blending modes. There's lighten, screen, color dodge, linear dodge, lighter color, and so on. I kind of like overlay. Again, we could continue adding more layers and blending them together, and even add additional layers from other images. One additional interesting technique you can try if you have a subscription to the Creative Cloud is to introduce some 3D shapes. Now, you don't have to be an expert in 3D to do this, and I'll show you how it's done. First, what I'll do is I'll create a copy of this entire image on its own layer by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E or Command-Option-Shift-E on the Mac. This creates a new layer at the top of the stack with all the contents that are visible on that layer. Now we'll choose from the 3D menu, and we'll pick New Mesh from Layer, Mesh Preset, and we'll pick something simple like Sphere. Most likely Photoshop will ask you if you want to switch to the 3D workspace, and you have an option here. I'm going to go ahead and choose yes because there is one change that we want to make where the 3D workspace will help us out. So here's the sphere, and with the Move tool selected, we can see that we can move it around. But what we're going to want to do is to notice that we have a light here that's creating a shadow, and we may not want that shadow on the image. And if we don't, we can just make sure that we've chosen our 3D layer. We can go to the 3D panel and choose that light. And then here in the Properties panel, we can deselect shadow, and you can see that turns the shadow on and off under the image. That's all there is to it. We'll go back to our Layers panel, and now we'll choose a different layer, and all those extras are turned off. And here is our abstract image created with a combination of blurred, warped, and transformed layers, and even a 3D sphere in this case. Once again, the possibilities here are endless, and you could go on and on with additional layers and colors. So get in there and try it out. See what you can do. My name is Mike Hoffman. My website is hoffmanartdesign.com. There you'll find a variety of Photoshop, Lightroom, and photography tips, tricks, tutorials, and related information. You can follow me on Twitter at mhoffman2001, and you can find me on Google Plus by going to g+mikehoffman.com. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.